Ryerson University has a plan to grow jobs. Growth that stems not from academic education necessarily, but from fostering young entrepreneurs. And joining us now for more on the plans, here's Sheldon Levy, President and Vice Chancellor at Ryerson University, Jonathan Ingham with Phosphorus Media, Michael Privata with Bionic Laboratories, and Thiago Keris, also with Bionic Laboratories. And it's good to have you all four Ryerson folks around our table here today to talk about what's going on economically and how we can create jobs. Sheldon Levy, you gave a talk at the Empire Club very recently, last week, and let me just share with our viewers some of what you had to say, and then we'll have a chat about this. Control room, if you would, bring this up. Here's what Sheldon Levy had to say. Let me paint a picture of our economy for you right now. In March, the Canadian economy lost 55,000 jobs. Unemployment rose to 7.2%, and economists expect job creation to stay slow for months to come. So now is a good time to ask the question, where are the jobs going to come from? That is a great question. Let's get into the answer. What can you tell us on that?
Well, the research shows that if you stayed with the companies that you presently have, then you're going to have job decline, and that job growth comes from startups. So the speech was really about introducing the idea of what you could call being startup friendly, or creating a culture within Toronto or Canada that embraces startups and helps the young companies like you have here today to get moving and be the job creators.
Startups defined how?
I would define it as a young person that sees an opportunity in the market, sees a place where they can make a contribution, and begins to incorporate a company and sees themselves as being the president of that company and being the person that is going to add to the jobs by being successful and creating good jobs.
If we were having this conversation 30 years ago, my hunch is people would be saying, we've got to do whatever we can to give the biggest employers in our province and country the breaks they need to hire people like this, as opposed to figure out a way to let them start their own businesses. Why have things changed so much?
Well, I think there's a few things. One of them is that clearly of the opportunity young people have to get into the innovation agenda and to see themselves as the employer is going to give them the talents that any company would want to hire them. They will be the innovators within that company as well. So this isn't only about startups as creating new jobs. This is about a quality of an education that any employer would want for themselves. But I think what has changed, I would say, is that we have talked about innovation in this country for a long time. We've invested in it, and we've been frustrated about it. But if you ask yourself, have we introduced innovation or invited the younger generation to be the leaders in innovation, I think the answer is that we have not.
So what are you at Ryerson doing to turn that no into a yes?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're giving young people, not only our Ryerson students, but really young people generally, the opportunity to pitch an idea, to show a business plan, and to be introduced to people that will support them in starting their company. And I think people are overwhelmed by the success we're having. And it's good to see that other institutions and others are copying it, maybe putting their own spin on it. But the idea that you look to young people to take a leadership role in our country is important. You know, Steve, we've been asked often at universities, they would say, what proportion of your students are employed? Well, there's another question to ask. And that is, what proportion, how many jobs is your students creating? And I think we have to begin a culture that sees young people as playing that role
so
as
not
job
just
creators.
Potential employees, but as job creators.
Yeah, they will be the greatest employees, but they also will be the greatest job creators. And at a cost per job that is a fraction of what is now being spent.
Let's see if we have three of them at this table here tonight.
Sure.
Jonathan, shall we chat?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you from?
I'm from a small town in Kettleby, which is just about an hour north from here. Grew up in a small little subdivision and enrolled in Ryerson University. I did undergrad in radio and television, and then followed up immediately with a master's in media production.
You want my job someday?
It sounds very interesting, as a matter of fact.
It is a very interesting job. I just figure all RTA guys want it. Okay, so you're in what year right now in Ryerson?
I just currently finished my master's.
Finished, so you've done 4 years there?
5 years
You've
in
done
total
5 years
Ryerson,
in total. Tell me about your company.
Certainly. So Phosphorus Media is a full-serve interactive digital agency. We do a lot of interactive floors, walls, storefront window displays, large format touchscreens for both permanent and temporary installations.
Let's show some of the video here, because we can show it, I think, as you describe it.
So this is an interactive floor that we did. It was a big break, something we did for L'Oreal's 100-year anniversary, actually 2 years ago at this point. And this is when I was actually still at Ryerson University doing my master's. So while in school, I got flown down to New York to install that and manage it.
How do you do that?
So technically how it works is there's a series of overhead cameras that track as these models or people walk over the interactive floor. And we tell the software to move and manipulate the content based off of that interaction.
So you haven't got somebody up there, quote unquote, kicking the leaves away. This is all computer done.
This is all computer done, and this is all live.
Can you tell I'm very old fashioned about this kind of thing? Okay, so as they move their feet, those
particles or whatever it may be is moving and manipulating,
Have you created jobs with this new venture of yours?
Absolutely.
How many?
We've got 4 full-time employees, and we've got about 12 freelance contractors that we continually bring up and down based off of the workload. So at any given week, sometimes we have up to 10 people working full-time on certain jobs.
How much do you pay them? Can I ask that?
Certainly, it ranges from $35 to $80 an hour. And for high-skilled programmers, visual effects artists, they ask for even up to $85 an hour. And I'm okay paying that. If you're very skilled and technically savvy at what you do, this is kind of market rate, and the people who understand it are willing to pay for it.
Is your company making money?
Absolutely, yeah.
You are making money.
We are, yeah.
Making money, hiring people, paying taxes.
We are.
So this seems like a pretty good thing.
I think so. I'm certainly enjoying doing it. It's a lot of fun, learning a tremendous amount along the way. Something I never take for granted, and if I could do it again, absolutely. It's been a real thrill.
Where's head office?
Head office is actually out of the Ryerson Digital Media Zone, which is 10 Dundas East, right at Yonge and Dundas.
Okay, and did you need seed money from somewhere to get it started?
I did. It came from a purchase that I made early on in school, buying a domain name, as well as some capital actually from family and friends to get the original investment going.
How much did you need to get started?
I needed about $30,000.
So you put that together, and now you got a valuation on what the company's worth?
I don't have a valuation at this point. I think it's several hundreds of thousands of dollars, certainly, maybe even $1 million, hopefully.
When are we going public?
Hopefully in the next 5 years, depending on how the growth goes. I'm not too sure.
Good enough. All right, good stuff.
Thank you.
Michael, let's bring you in. Where are you from?
My family is originally from Poland.
You were born there?
No, I was actually born here, coincidentally.
You were born here?
Yes, I was.
So why do you have a Polish accent?
Well, my parents are both from Poland. They came here when they were really young, well, in their early 20s. So while they were struggling finding jobs, they would only speak Polish to me because they had no chance of learning English at the time. So I didn't learn English till I was maybe 7 or 8 years old.
Interesting. Okay. And you grew up where in Canada?
Toronto.
You grew up in Toronto?
Yeah. I didn't realize I had an accent, but.
You have the hint of an accent.
A little bit, yeah.
I can hear it just a little bit.
Tiago has a little more of an accent.
We'll get to him in a second. I'm picking on you for the moment.
Sure.
How many years at Ryerson?
I did about 3 years at Ryerson, biomedical engineering.
Biomedical engineering?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It's essentially the study of basically engineering, but applying that to the medical field. So a combination of electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, software engineering, all applied to medicine.
And your company's called Bionic Laboratories, or Laboratories, however you want to say it.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and what does that do?
So that's a company that we started with a vision to fill gaps in medical markets. So if we see a product that isn't being created right now. We create that. What you see on the screen right now, it's basically a device that allows people who are paralyzed to walk. The reason we chose that is because currently there's absolutely nothing available for a person who has a spinal cord injury and wants to get up and walk.
Okay, what in this picture that we're looking at now is actually your product?
Everything.
Everything.
So what's running it is our software. So we created a smart system that analyzes signals in the body, and that gets translated into motion through hardware, electronic hardware that we created, which translates into motion in mechanical hardware that we've created.
And you have tested this on people who literally cannot walk?
Currently, it's being tested on able-bodied people in our in-house trials, and we're going into clinical trials by the end of the year with patients who have an injury.
Who, in other words, they're in wheelchairs, they can't walk otherwise.
Exactly.
That's what you're going to test with.
Yeah.
Is he your partner?
Yes, he is.
He is. Shall we bring you into this, Thiago?
Definitely.
Where are you from?
I'm from Brazil originally.
And came to Canada when?
About 7 years ago.
7 years ago,
Yeah.
okay. And how many years at Ryerson?
3 years of Ryerson, same program, biomedical engineering. That's how I met Michael, and that's how we started the company, Bionic Laboratories.
Just tell us how did that hook up? Like, what did you guys see in each other where you said, oh, there's the germ of something here that we should work on?
I think the connection is it's very related to entrepreneurship and the idea of creating a startup company. Is that when I was in the engineering program, of course, there's a lot of midterms, exams, there's all the academic life that you have to follow. And I wanted something more. So I wanted to create something that I was the main creator, I was the father of it. And then when I met Michael, he had the same vision. He wanted to do projects that were kind of outside the schoolwork. So I would still do my schoolwork, but I wanted to create something that was new. And at the time, it wasn't the bionic legs that we just saw on the screen. It was a prosthetic arm that was controlled by brain power. So the person would literally put a headset on their head, and we can pick up brain signals, and we could control a prosthetic arm. That was my focus at the beginning when I was at university. And I met Michael. He loved the idea. We started working on that. And then from there, we learned a lot in terms of technology, signaling, electronics, hardware, and we merged from there to the bionic legs.
Do either of you in your family backgrounds have people who are amputees or who are physically handicapped, anything like that?
I don't have anyone. Actually, every single person that I talk to asks me that question. Because they try to find a connection between
that's it. We're looking for the inspiration behind the idea.
The market, whatever we chose, and my family or my background, right? But it's just, I believe the gap that was there in the medical market was so huge because the wheelchair was created 1,500 years ago. And since then, nothing has been developed to help paraplegics. You see cell phone technology coming up every day, but nothing for paraplegics has been developed. And it just, that shocked me and certainly shocked Michael as well.
Yeah. I actually have a cousin who's in a wheelchair, and because of that, you see the daily problems associated with being in a wheelchair. You're talking about pressure sores, going back to the hospital because of secondary illnesses just because of being in the wheelchair. The statistics in Canada are about $4 billion a year just on secondary causes, not even related to using a wheelchair, and that's not including putting an elevator in your house if you need it, right? And a whole range of other costs.
Right. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth here, but was your cousin's experience part of what gave you the idea for this? Not initially, but it definitely helped propel the idea. What do you guys want to do with this? Michael, you first.
I'd like to develop every possible technology we can. We have a whole range of ideas, but you have to start with one and kind of complete it. We plan to take the company public, which will fund a lot of the future developments we'd like to do.
But again, I don't know, is the dream to have every disabled person walking someday thanks to your technology?
I think that's one of the dreams. There are more dreams in the game, and I'm going to quote something that Steve Jobs said. A lot of people are trying to build companies to sell after 2 years, so they're looking for the exit strategy from the beginning. And what I like when I met Michael, the vision that we had is that we don't want to sell it. We don't want to do something, just sell it, the whole idea is to build this enterprise, this company that can develop any medical product, because I have other ideas. That's my first focus, right? So of course one of the dreams is to get this through, this exoskeleton, get people walking, but I want to put my other ideas into this business. And starting your own business and your own company gives you the potential to do that. Any other idea can put it inside the company. I have investors that are already invested in the bionic legs. And if the bionic legs is a success, I can do the same with following products.
Why do you spell bionic with a K instead of a C?
I think it's just to differentiate.
I think I chose that so that my family can read it, because a C in Polish is not a K.
It's a CH.
Right. Well, it's a K, just a K.
Okay.
Right?
so
no one in my
Eastern
family would be
European
able to
flavor.
read it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And let me ask you the same thing I asked your colleague over here. Seed money. How did you get started?
Well, unfortunately, in Canada, that's a huge challenge. A lot of our investors are actually from the States or from Europe. We have a few individuals from Canada, but it's all private investments. The venture capital community in Canada is it's very difficult to deal with, and it's very hard to get any money from them.
Why is that?
I'm not sure what the answer to that is.
Let me get Sheldon Levy in here for a second. We are thought to be a more risk-averse culture in Canada. Is that part of the problem behind the lack of venture capital to get going?
Well, what I've seen, mostly through watching the companies in the zone, is how many of them seem to get their customers or their attention south of the border. And that was what created the startup-friendly comment I made. Because if we're not going to take some risk with young people like you see here today, or to be able to say to them, your dream, no matter how big, is a good dream, as opposed to tell people that dream is too big for our country, then we're not going to compete. I always get an interest when people say we're in a competition. Well, being in the competition and winning it are two different things. So I grant you we're in it, but are we in it to win? And if we're in it to win, then we have to create a culture of a higher risk tolerance, and to be able to look at young people like you have here today and recognize that Toronto has the 4th largest number of startups in the world, and to give them a break. And I would be willing to bet my own money on them that in fact our company,
potential investor guys, go get them. Go get them.
Our country will be far, far better off by taking the attitude that rather than that I don't believe you can do it, as opposed to I believe that you can do that and more.
Jonathan, what qualities do you think the three of you have? I presume you know these guys a little bit and they know you. What qualities do you think the three of you bring to the table that have enabled you to do what you're doing and be what you are?
I think it's certainly doing a lot with very little that you've been given with. So, thinking outside of the box, thinking creatively on how to attack or approach problems, and really how do you get it done with no money, or if so, very little. I think another thing is certainly realizing your personal strengths as well as your weaknesses. So knowing that you can't be good at everything. So reaching out to either entrepreneurs or people in your position to get feedback, looking for mentorship, guidance, because people have been through this before. Entrepreneurship. You're not the first time trying to build a business for yourself. So if you can get some help and some assistance with questions that you have in the startup phase, I think you're going to be a lot more successful. And I think we've all kind of shared that mentality and that thought process when you're starting a business.
Did you have a mentor along the way?
Absolutely.
Who was it?
Well, it started off with my father, certainly, as well as some colleagues of his.
Was he an entrepreneur?
He worked for several other companies, and through a phase of interesting moves, he now works with a partner and has his own business as well.
Okay. Mentors over here?
I think mentors was a big part for Bionic Labs. We, through Ryerson University and the DMZ and the incubator at Ryerson, we met a lot of people. We had so many different meetings, meeting different people that were really interested in the project. Of course, some people say no, some people don't like your approach, but you ended up finding the good ones. And we had 3 great mentors that right now they're involved in Bionics as like partners, and also they work in the company. And if it wasn't because of these people, we wouldn't be here today.
Michael?
And I think our first mentor was Sheldon. If it wasn't for Sheldon telling us that we can do something outside of what we're currently doing, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't have started anything.
Let me ask the question that I suspect a lot of people who are closer to our age as opposed to their age are asking, which is, can we really put the hope of the future of this country in the hands of 20-somethings to create the jobs, et cetera, et cetera? Because again, from our generation, we tend to think it's going to be the big established companies that are going to hire our kids and grandkids, not these guys. Mm-hmm. How about that?
Well, I would answer it that it's in both. I think the too much attention has been assuming that it will be the big corporations that will create the jobs. And I think what I'm arguing, and I think what we're seeing, is that for sure you want them to be there, that their innovation and their productivity will make a huge, huge difference. But you never know if Bionics or Phosphorus are going to be that company in 5 years, that big company. And unless you're going to see startups as being part of the equation for economic health, then we're going to have problems.
I presume that there are governments that are in the business of trying to help people like you out, right? They give you either startup money or there's some kind of program somewhere. Michael, did you find it easy to access any of that kind of money?
It's very difficult to access that money. The reason for that is because everything in Canada, well, not everything, but most of the programs in Canada are kind of focused around the academia, basically. So if you're not a PhD or a postdoc doing a research project, you probably won't be able to access that money.
Thiago, how about it?
Yeah, I think Michael said it's an important point. Most of the budget and the funding goes to university research. So then if you have a company and you want to get funded, you have to go to VCs and angel investors and get the private community. And the process to get in touch with them, the process to have a meeting with them, the paperwork is just it's very large, and then it just becomes very frustrating, and you ended up not getting it.
It can take you months before you get a meeting with anyone.
Months.
Yeah. Steve, to be fair about it, I think a number of governments have been working to try to change the attitudes and the challenges that young people face. And federal government through the Federal Development Agency has been one. The provincial government in its recent budget has announced a change and starting to fund incubators. So I think what you're also seeing is the success of Michael, Thiago, and Jonathan are really turning the heads of governments to become more participants in it. So you could say that they're the leading edge, and we hope that there will be a lot more changes coming.
Jonathan, have you faced any major setbacks so far?
Certainly, I think growth is, well, I wouldn't call it a setback, but expanding rapidly can be very challenging when jobs can fluctuate up and down. Really, that's just a personal and I guess business decision on when you invest on a full-time salary to bring somebody on. And with the work that I do, it can be temporary. So jobs, we scale up very quickly, and sometimes we have to scale back down. So my focus has been, of course, finding that even keel, steady work every single month, retainers with clients that I can continue to grow at a very steady pace, because I've seen many companies who grow too quick, too fast, and the costs get out of control, and that's how businesses go bankrupt.
Michael, I've read numerous accounts of how Ted Rogers, who had managed to build himself a pretty good company, bet the company numerous times over along the way in order to be where it is today. Have you found that?
Well, we've definitely taken those risks. For the first year, we were running balances on 10 different credit cards each. And that's the only way you can do it. You have to take that risk.
How did you get 10 different credit cards at the same time?
Oh, it's easy to get a credit card in Canada.
As long as one hand doesn't know what the other's doing?
Exactly.
Something like that. Well, take us 5 years down the road. Where do you want to see this thing be?
Right now, we are planning for our clinical trials for the Bionic Axle legs, which is going to be in Toronto at the beginning, at the moment. We're looking for other countries to expand our clinical trials as well. After we finish clinical trials, which is going to be the end of this year, we're planning on going public about 2 years down the road. So as a public company, we will have revenue and money to start other projects. So definitely, that's a company that we want to keep.
Gotcha. I want to thank you all for coming in today and sharing your story with us. And obviously, we wish you all great success in what you're doing. Sheldon Levy, the President, Vice Chancellor at Ryerson University, Jonathan Ingham from Phosphorus Media, Michael Privata, Bionic Laboratories, Thiago Keris, Bionic Laboratories. Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.